because in addition to talking about the CFO and the CIO partnership for success, he's also the last presentation before lunch. So you have a grave responsibility. The CFO-CIO Partnership for Corporate Success. May I please invite to the stage the Chief Information Officer for the Karachi Electric Supply Company, Sardar Naufil Mahmud. Please give him a big round of applause. And come on, it is before lunch, so the applause has to be much louder. Can we try it one more time, please?
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me here. And it seems that Rabia has stolen my punchline, that I'm the one who's standing between you and lunch. But let me start by just looking at what all the different speakers have been saying. A lot of the things that I want to capture in my presentation have already been said. So in real terms, I think most of my work has already been covered. But let me quickly go through this. I think one of the reasons that maybe Yaqub Sardar invited me here was based on a meeting that we had a few months ago. And we shared our views and exchanged our views rather. So some of that is coming from there as well. Let me just quickly go through this. What I've put up here are sayings from two different sides, the CFO as well as the CIO. A friend of mine mentioned that, when I spoke about this conference, he said, well, finance managers and IT managers in the history, one is the recorder of history and the other is the reporter of history. And I think from that point onwards, I would like to add on top of that, from that situation to a CFO and a CIO, we're not actually talking about history anymore. We are now part of the strategy, the leadership of organizations that are looking forward and developing strategies together. So, having said all of that, I think the perception gap still remains. And it's this perception that is sort of hampering the common agenda. On the one hand, we have the CFOs who believe that IT cannot understand the business strategy, whereas the CIOs, they claim that the finance managers do not convey their requirements effectively. And if you look at a research done by the Europe Research Services, they say that 37% of the CFOs think that the IT project was completed on time, whereas the CIO thinks it's more like 72% that the same project that they're talking about. And so if you look at some of the things that the CFOs want from CIOs and what the CIOs want from CFOs, you see there seems to be a lot of a gap. And that gap really is the thing which is creating that difficulty. I've just listed down, I haven't gone through, being in IT, I haven't gone through the objectives that are being set for the CFOs or the CIOs of organizations, but generally if you look at it, these are some of the goals that are set for a CFO. And on the other side, on the right side, are probably the goals set for CIOs. If you look across, there are really a lot of similarities. Maybe different terminology, but similar goals. So how can the CIO help the CFO achieve his goals? Let's take one at a time. If you really look at it, the CIOs and CFOs do have a common agenda. They do share common deliverables. When the CIO can really help in terms of setting up a flexible infrastructure, they can really work with the CFOs, putting in data standards. We heard a lot of previous speakers talk about good governance, integrity, and all such issues. The CIO survey, the IBM CIO survey that I've listed, if you look at the top line, the CFO priorities are measuring and monitoring business performance. That's their top priority. If you look at the other side, the CIO's top priority is using tools which can actually deliver the top priority of CFO. Next, managing risk, and in that area, as time goes by, we've got new technologies coming in. The amount of data volumes that we talk about are really humongous, and with that comes risk and managing that risk. CIOs can help CFOs again provide methods and ways of actually managing that increase in data volumes, the risk associated with that. Similarly, with all that data, CIOs can really help convert that data into information which then the business can use effectively. Now, all of these things are there on the side of the CFOs, and all of them can be provided together by the CIO. Thirdly, it's not just about CFOs. I think CIOs need to have a different view. There used to be, initially, if you look at it, the general trend was that if you were an IT manager, the title was changed, that now it became a CIO. That's not necessarily the case. That's not the true reflection of what a CIO is. A CIO is actually somebody who's involved, may not actually be an IT person, but he has to understand what the IT requirements are. They don't only interact with the finance department, which used to be the case. As a matter of fact, the new customer of a CIO is more on the sales and the marketing and the strategy side, because they're the ones who are actually developing where the company is going to go forward. CIOs, if you talk to vendors who come and talk about their products, they'll tell you that the CIOs really are relentless in cost cutting. And the different tools that are coming out, the business development tools, the business analytical tools, are really there to help the CFOs as well as the other C-level executives see where they're planning to go in the future. So how do we improve this collaboration between the CFOs and CIOs? There are lots of sayings, different people have said something, but I think if you really look at it, the requirements are similar, the needs are similar, the goals are similar, but still there is that gap. And that gap, if I were to say, is communication. If you improve communication between the CFO and the CIO, you actually bridge the gap which is hampering the two working together. How can we help? How can the CIO and the CFO work together? We need to work and talk about benefits rather than solution. Generally, if you talk to IT guys, they'll tell you, this database and this server and this application. I think we need to move from there and talk about what the benefits are. We need to stop talking about kilobytes and other technical jargon. We need to, before we can bridge that gap on the IT side, we also need to explain and help the other side understand what IT is all about. At KSE, we've started this new role of business analyst. They're actually IT headcount, but they're actually sitting with the different departments within KSE. So there are business analysts who are talking to the distribution side, the finance side, the generation side. the whole idea is bridging that communication gap